Penguin Random House Audio presents The Transcendent Brain, Spirituality in the Age of Science by Lightman. Read for you by Christopher Grove. Note to listeners, this audiobook includes a downloadable PDF which contains illustrations from the printed book. When figures show their royal front, and mists are carved away, behold the atom, I preferred, to all the lists of clay. Emily Dickinson. Introduction. For many years, a family of ospreys lived near our house on a small island in Maine. Each season, my wife and I observed their rituals and habits. In mid-April, the parents would arrive at the nest, having spent the winter in South America, and lay eggs. In late May or early June, the eggs hatched. As the father dutifully brought fish dinners to the nest each day, the babies would grow bigger and bigger, and in mid-August were large enough to make their first flight. Throughout the season, my wife and I recorded all of these comings and goings. We noted the number of chicks each year. We observed when the chicks first began flapping their wings, in early August, a couple of weeks before having the strength to become airborne and leave the nest for the first time. We memorized the different chirps the parents made for danger, for hunger, for the arrival of food. After several years of cataloging such data, we felt that we knew these ospreys pretty well. Then one late August afternoon, the two juvenile ospreys of that season took flight for the first time, as I stood observing them from my second-floor circular deck. All summer long, they had watched me on that deck, as I watched them. The circular deck was about nest-high, so to the fledgling birds it must have looked like I was in my nest, just as they were in theirs. On this particular afternoon, their maiden flight, they did a wide half-mile loop out over the ocean, and then headed straight at me with tremendous speed. A juvenile osprey, although slightly smaller than a full-grown adult, is still a large bird, with powerful and sharp talons. My immediate impulse was to run for cover, since the birds could have ripped my face off. But something held me to my ground. When they were within 15 or 20 feet of me, the two birds suddenly veered upward and away. But before that dazzling and frightening vertical climb, for about half a second, we made eye contact. Words cannot convey what was exchanged between us in that instant. It was a look of connectedness, of mutual respect, of recognition that we shared the same land. It was a look that said, as clear as spoken words, "We are brothers in this place." After the two young ospreys were gone, I found that I was shaking and in tears. To this day, I don't understand what happened in that half-second, but it was a profound connection to nature, and a feeling of being part of something much larger than myself. I'm a scientist, and have always had a scientific view of the world, by which I mean that the universe is made of material stuff, and only material stuff, and that stuff is governed by a small number of fundamental laws. Every phenomenon has a cause, which originates in the physical universe. I'm a materialist. Not in the sense of seeking happiness in cars and nice clothes, but in the literal sense of the word, the belief that everything is made out of atoms and molecules and nothing more. Yet, I have transcendent experiences. I communed with two ospreys that summer in Maine. I have feelings of being part of things larger than myself. I have a sense of connection to other people and to the world of living things, even to the stars. I have a sense of beauty. I have experiences of awe, and I've had transporting creative moments. Of course, all of us have had similar feelings and moments. While these experiences are not exactly the same, they have sufficient similarity that I'll gather them together under the heading of spirituality. I will call myself a spiritual materialist. In 1973, the late Tibetan Buddhist master, Chogyam Trungpa, coined that phrase to mean someone who has the false belief that certain temporary states of mind bring relief from suffering. By temporary states of mind, he was probably thinking of the pleasures of cars and nice clothes and maybe romance. My meaning is different. I believe that the spiritual experiences we have can arise from atoms and molecules. At the same time, some of these experiences, and certainly their very personal and subjective nature, cannot be fully understood in terms of atoms and molecules. I believe in the laws of chemistry and biology and physics. In fact, as a scientist, I much admire those laws. But I don't think they capture, or can capture, the first-person experience of making eye contact with wild animals and similar transcendent moments. Some human experiences are simply not reducible to zeros and ones. I'll assume that the feelings I've described occur in the brain, possibly augmented by the complete nervous system. In the view of modern biology, all mental sensations are rooted in the material neurons of the nervous system and the electrical and chemical interactions between them. Considering that assumption, a more specific and perhaps blunt way to phrase our central question is, how can the material neurons in the human nervous system give rise to feelings of spirituality? In recent years, scientists and others have come to recognize events and processes we call emergent phenomena, behaviors of complex systems that are not evident in their individual parts. A good example is the way that certain groups of fireflies synchronize their flashing. When a bunch of such fireflies first find themselves together in a field on a summer night, each insect in the group flashes at different random times and at different rates, like blinking Christmas tree lights. But after a minute or so, even without a boss firefly giving orders, all the fireflies have adjusted their inner bodies so that they flash on and off in total synchrony. Such collective behavior cannot be understood by the analysis of a single firefly. Similarly, our brains, composed of 100 billion neurons/fireflies, exhibit all kinds of spectacular behavior that cannot be explained or predicted in terms of individual neurons. The concept of emergent phenomena offers a possible understanding of how a purely materialist world can be compatible with complex human experiences. Even more fundamental than spirituality is the bedrock experience we call consciousness, the sense of being, of self-awareness, of I-ness, of existing as a distinct entity able to feel and think. How can the material neurons of the nervous system give rise to the sensation we call consciousness? Although the deeper question of consciousness must be considered in any discussion of the mind, I'm more interested in the question of spirituality for several reasons. Consciousness, while we all experience it, is extremely subtle, hard to define, and remains elusive to neurobiologists, philosophers, and psychologists alike. Perhaps with consciousness we are asking the wrong question altogether. The distinguished neuroscientist Robert Desimone of MIT told me that the mystery of consciousness is overrated, that it is just a vague name we give to the sensation of all the electrical and chemical activity of our neurons. I am not fully satisfied with Professor Desimone's statement. While I completely support the idea that consciousness is rooted in the material nervous system, I don't think that the mystery of consciousness is exaggerated. The sensations of I-ness and immediate presence in the world are unlike all other experiences and equal to the greatest mysteries in science. If we take consciousness as a given, the various feelings of spirituality mentioned earlier are somewhat specific and definable. We can explore the nature of those feelings, their origins, and their possible evolutionary benefit. Of course, we cannot really take consciousness
Sample complete. Ready to continue?